So, my science fair is titled OMG, What You Won't Believe What My GPA Is. And we're trying to find out, does the amount of text a student sends per day correlate with their GPA? Students have cell phones for many different reasons: to keep in touch with family, friends, social networking, organizational assistance, educational support. Can a student still achieve their highest academic potential while sending a large amount of text a day? The purpose of this experiment is to find the correlation between a student's GPA and the amount of text sent per day. Raynell Junko, ED.D, and Sheila Kime, a professor and educational doctorate, ran a study called No A for You, and it shows multitasking and being able to study. Students who did that showed similarities between drunkenness and when it comes to memory, because they cannot multitask and stay on the task in which they're given academically. If a student sends a large amount of text per day, then he or she will have a lower GPA, because they would have spent more time of their day sending a text message and retaining knowledge and comprehending academic and educational materials. All participants and their parents and guardians were given an informed consent permission slip. The number of texts a student sends per day and the GPA were gathered from the class survey distributed by Ms. Sullivan for Science Fair. It was all entered into Excel. The Pearson product moment correlation coefficient was found, and also the average GPA and the average amount of text per day were found. There's a variety of charts to represent the data as well as possible. This is done to answer the question posed in the purpose. For all data, we're going to refer to Appendix A. The Pearson product moment correlation coefficient is used for us to tell the accuracy of our correlation. Whether the correlation discovered tells us if our variables get bigger with each other or have an inverse correlation. The Pearson product moment correlation coefficient for the data used is negative 0.01612. Anything that's close to negative 1 is said to have an inverse correlation, meaning that one item gets bigger and the other gets smaller. Our correlation is a slight inverse, not a large inverse. This is a chart. It shows where they stand on the GPA and where they stand as far as text messaging is, and that is the line of best fit right there. That line of best fit is the function of where it is in the middle of these lines and those lines. It passes through one almost perfectly right here. We have outliers, as you can tell. This one is a very large, very huge amount. The graph showed on the previous slide, which is what I was talking about, shows the linear relationship of a line of best fit. Again, the line of best fit is a function in which is a relationship between the x and y values. This is our average GPA, 3.27, and that's the average amount of text point day, about 150. So this shows about all the students we have and that. So an inference made on this could be students who have about a 3.27 will send about 150 text messages a day. So this chart is kind of hard to tell, but it's just for us to get an idea of GPA versus text. As you can see, this person says a large amount of text, but GPA number is not going to be that high just because of the fact that GPA is measured on a scale of 1 to 4. While the text messages can range from 0 to 3,000 on a day. You never know. Some errors and mistakes that are made in this experiment. I would say one of the biggest ones was a small sample size. We need a very large, a very vast amount of people in order to use our sample, to best make the best results for this experiment. Also, only one day was used. The experiment could have benefited for a longer time span of more than just one day. If students would have done this possibly for 2 weeks, a month maybe, the results were able to stand stronger and really demonstrate what the problem is with cell phones and students' GPA and how we can best make the decision to help those students who need those supports. Also, depending on certain days. Students might have a low day of text messages where their best friend is out of town, or their phone's off, or their best friend's phone's off, or something's happening where it is hindering them from texting. Future improvements and questions. A big improvement would be a larger sample size. An even larger improvement was to test throughout a longer time span, just so we can get a harder result that they can stand on when saying students need this kind of support to help them best succeed in school. Also, questions that can be brought out from this experiment. What other technology affects your GPA? It's not just a cell phone, it could be TV, computer, iPad, iPod, whatever you want it to be. It's not just a cell phone. Also, something that can be also tested to see if we can root what some of these issues are is, can it be broken down to see which area specifically affects a student's GPA? So can a cell phone or an iPod or an iPad or whatever technology we have, does it specifically affect the organizational part, the homework part, the classwork part, or just is it an overall sweep throughout? This is what can be found out so this experiment can best help society so they can put in the proper programs and the proper assistance they need in place and teach parents what they need to do. Also, conclusions. The average number of texts sent per day again was 150, and it was compared to the average of the GPA, which was 3.276064. There was a weak inverse correlation with the number of texts sent and the GPA of a student. Basically, if a student stops texting as much, it is likely that their GPA will increase. The hypothesis is weakly supported by the inverse correlation of negative 0.01612. The number of texts weakly affects a student GPA. Students might improve their GPA if they decrease their number of texts, inversely causing the GPA to increase. That goes into the inverse operation. So if we're doing one thing, if a positive Pearson product moment correlation coefficient meant both growth, that means an inverse one means one growing and one getting smaller. That is what the term inverse means. Inverse is just the opposite. We're excited. Corey Vaux. And this is Appendix A. Our correlation coefficient, our average text sent per day, and our average GPA. Thank you. Have a good day.